Hey, what is up guys? So earlier today, we finally got one of the first big reveal trailers for Far Cry 5. And I gotta say, if Ubisoft is good at one thing, it's making really cool trailers that definitely get you interested in the game. Though I must admit, this one in particular almost makes it feel a bit like Outlast 2, with guns and obviously some actual daylight. Though for Far Cry's sake, I'm not really sure that's a bad thing. I mean, pretty much all of their previous games have been set in some form of a jungle, so I think it should be nice to actually see them mix things up quite a bit. The only big downside I see when it comes to bringing this game into the States is that for a lot of people it's an environment they're familiar with. So therefore maybe it won't feel as threatening as a place like the more mysterious jungle might. But you never know. Better yet, I checked out an interview Ubisoft also had on their channel, and Dan Hay, the executive producer, went on to say that we're still going to have a good number of main villains to deal with, hopefully very similar to what we've seen in previous Far Cry games. So that's good, but he also goes on to mention that when it comes to other more friendly characters, like for instance Mary May, Nick, and Pastor Jerome, they want them to feel like real people with actual opinions rather than just being AI who stand around to give you missions, which if done right, I think could turn out really well. And although we had some interesting minor characters in the past, like Herc from Far Cry 4, sometimes they did just seem like AI who stood around. Another thing that also looks quite promising is the setting itself, which is going to take place in rural Montana. And in the trailer we see a few small towns, several really cool animals, as well as plenty of vehicles that definitely fit the style of the area we'll be in. Not to mention the trailer makes everything look absolutely gorgeous. However, I want to make it clear that there's no way the final product is going to look this nice, because we've seen this type of thing in the past with just about every Ubisoft game. You gotta keep in mind, they could have it cranked up to the highest settings imaginable. And to be fair, it's not just Ubisoft who does this, other companies are guilty of it as well. And you know what, to be honest, it makes sense that certain aspects of the game, including the visuals, are gonna change between now and the date of launch. That's just game development for you. So it's nothing to get mad about, I just wouldn't recommend getting hyped up because of it. Also, alongside the setting comes the game's main bad guys, who I think could turn out to be a lot of fun to fight, mainly because they don't really feel like your run-of-the-mill Far Cry enemy that we're so used to. Speaking of them, this time around we'll be facing what look to be some extremely crazy religious fanatics. For some reason this has already pissed off a lot of people, and all I've got to say is come on guys. It's a damn video game, really nothing to cry over, so please don't try and ruin what looks to be a decent concept just because you feel the need to get offended by it. And seriously, if you're religious or just so happen to live in Montana, I highly doubt this game is trying to portray you. Instead, I'd say it's trying to take inspiration from past events and then take those to the extreme. But anyways, enough of that for now, and moving on to what could be a very positive new addition. It's not really explained in the trailer, but from what I've heard so far, supposedly this entire game can be played through with a friend. I know you might be thinking they've had co-op in the past, but don't forget that experience was also very limiting and never actually let you play through the main story together. That being said, I still remember Far Cry 4's co-op being extremely fun, so if they can end up making this full game playable with a friend, in a way that doesn't hinder the story, or the gameplay for that matter, I'm on board with it. And I think it could honestly be a huge improvement. Mix all of that with a really cool map editor, like we've seen in the past, and I'd say we'd have a great game on our hands. Probably not Game of the Year material, but definitely a game that should be a ton of fun. Especially with friends. Now, all in all, to me, there hasn't really been a great Far Cry game since Far Cry 3. And that's not to say the ones that came after that weren't fun, but by no means did they make any huge improvements. So hopefully with Far Cry 5, that'll end up changing. because there's nothing worse than a game series that starts feeling really repetitive over time. And I think them doing a complete 180 on the setting is a good sign that maybe they knew that was starting to happen, so hopefully they're not afraid to change up a few other things as well. But anyways guys, that should do it for today. Please feel free to let me know if you're excited for this game, or do you think it's just going to be another copy and pasted version of the older Far Cry's? Either way, thanks for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy the video. And as always, I will see you in the next one.